Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Hi to everybody who's already said hello in the chat box, and for all of you that haven't, I'm Jordan. I am the Marketing and Events Manager at Pathways CTM, and we are here this evening for our Insight event with Accenture. So you're all in the right place, don't worry about that. I'm going to hand over to Dan in a minute to introduce himself as well as everybody else, but just before I do, just to let you know how to communicate with us. So feel free to chat in the chat box throughout, engage with us and each other. We love to hear from you. It's always great to get some interaction from you. So let us know where you're from, what year group you're in, and sort of what you're looking to do, whether you're at school or you've left school, whatever that is. And then also feel free to ask any questions throughout the session in the Q&A box, and we can do that. If anyone is feeling brave, you can have the function to raise your hand and we'll be able to unmute you and you can ask your question live. But there is no obligation to do that, so feel free to do whatever you feel comfortable with. Oh, it's great to hear from you that you are in year 12, Maya. That's nice to hear. I will now hand over to Dan, if that's okay. So Dan, over to you.
Great. Well, thanks very much, Jordan, and thank you for having us this evening. We're very excited to be giving you some insight into Accenture and our apprenticeships, especially the ones that are kind of happening in the north of England and in Scotland. I will share my screen with you just to go through a few slides that might be very useful for you guys to see. Just bear with me a second. Hopefully you can all see that. So yes, so here from Accenture, talking to you about Accenture and our technology degree apprenticeships opportunities. And just to introduce the people who will be on the panel from Accenture tonight. So it'll be myself, I'm Dan, Dan Meyer. I'm a recruitment specialist at Accenture based in Newcastle. I look after apprenticeships and graduate opportunities for the north of England and for Scotland from a recruitment perspective. We also have Karen Marshall, who is our apprenticeship lead at Accenture, again for the north of England and for Scotland. And then we've got a couple of apprentices who are kind of working with us on the apprenticeship program. Craig McNichol, who is based in Scotland and is kind of aligned to our Edinburgh apprenticeship. And then Jasmine Smith from Manchester, who's aligned to our kind of northwest of England kind of apprenticeship. So looking forward to sharing our insights, as I said, and giving you some information, hopefully some very useful information about Accenture and our apprenticeships. What we will be kind of talking through this evening, I'll start off by kind of giving you an introduction to Accenture and our apprenticeship programs. And then Karen will talk to you about the timelines involved in the apprenticeship and the training you will receive if you should join us, and some of the support network that is in place for our apprentices too. And then it'll be back to me just to briefly talk you through the recruiting process, so how to apply, what does the kind of different stages of the recruitment process look like. And then probably the most exciting part will be when you can get a chance to learn from Jasmine and from Craig about what it is actually like to be working as an apprentice at Accenture. So it'll be a bit of a panel discussion where we'll be asking Jasmine and Craig some questions around their kind of time as an apprentice at Accenture. And then we will kind of open up for questions to the audience, to all you guys. So do have those questions come in the chat box or raise your hand, like Jordan said as well, at any point. And then at the end, Jordan will just kind of wrap things up. So I hope that all makes sense in terms of what to expect in the next hour. So just some bits and bobs about Accenture. I won't spend too much time on it, but just to give you some general information, a few stats, I guess, to start off with. So Accenture is a sort of large global technology and consulting company. In fact, we have over 500,000 people worldwide who work for Accenture, about 12,000 or so in the UK. So we operate in 200 cities in 120 countries, so a big global presence. And internationally, we work with kind of over 4,000 clients, including 94 of the Fortune Global 100 companies. So lots of different companies, lots of different clients we work with, which means that they all come from various different industries as well. So at Accenture, we have expertise in more than 40 industries across 19 industry groups. So if you should join us as an apprentice, or however you join us at Accenture in your career, you will get a chance to get a feel for different kinds of industries, different kinds of clients, to get a wide understanding of the different kinds of projects you'll be working on, and that we work on at Accenture. And then just a couple of additional kind of bubbles there, if you like. So we are regularly voted kind of #1 on the Thomas Reuters Diversity and Inclusion Index. Diversity is something that's very important to us at Accenture and something we very much pride ourselves on. We very much believe that if people come from different backgrounds, that's when they come to the table with different ideas from different angles, and that's often when you get the freshest ideas and the freshest kind of solutions for our clients on the project. So diversity is definitely a big thing for us, and often kind of also a list of most admired companies in the final bubble there. And I guess part of the reason why we are admired is because of our diversity and inclusion, but also because of our kind of ethics and our core values, and our kind of focus on sustainability and all things green. So so yeah, just a few kind of numbers and stats there for you about Accenture. Now, what about the actual technology degree apprenticeships that we have? So the degree apprenticeships will last sort of 3 to 4 years, depending on your location. It's a fully funded BSc degree with a specialism in software engineering. So the great thing about that is that you have an apprenticeship salary, but you also don't have student debt by the time you complete your apprenticeship, which is always a bonus. And how it will work is that you spend 1 day per week at university and then 4 days in the office. The 1 day that you are at university is very much focused on your uni work. As Karen will explain to you later on, there's going to be, oops, let me just go back to that one. There will be some study time you can take off as well, but 4 days a week, you'll be working on the client projects, learning lots and lots and lots from experts at Accenture, doing lots of hands-on experience and work on the projects, designing the technology solutions, working with kind of advanced tech, and really playing your part actively on the client projects 4 days a week. And that could be in an office. It could also be on a client site at some of our clients in their offices. Or it could be from home, as it is at the moment. So the start dates we're looking at for all our apprenticeships, we've got apprenticeships in Edinburgh and based in Manchester and in Newcastle and also in London and Warwick. They're all starting towards the end of August. And when you start with us, you will go through a 4-week training program. We call it our BootCamp. And Karen will tell you some more information about that shortly. And once you've completed your 4-week kind of training program, your initial training program, you will get placed into your first project. Usually the first project will be kind of assigned to you based on where the biggest requirements are, where our clients need us the most, but we will always try to consider your own interests, which technology you want to work with, which industries you might want to work with, for example. But initially it will be you'll be placed where there's the biggest demand. But the intention is for you to rotate, which is what that last bullet point there is about. So we want you to kind of rotate onto different projects throughout your apprenticeship with us to get a feel for different kinds of tech, different kinds of clients, different kinds of industries. So I will kind of hand it over to you, Karen. I will keep this slide open up here. So if you want me to move on to the next one, just give me an indication. So if you wouldn't mind going through the timelines and some of the training and development they'll get.
No problem, Dan. So it's a fairly standard options for how we prepare everybody for working at Accenture, and then how we support people to achieve their degree as they're working at Accenture. When people first start with us as apprentices, we make sure that we do a really intensive orientation and induction session, and a 4-week bootcamp, which really helps you get to grips with all different kinds of coding. And of course, it doesn't matter if you haven't done any programming or coding before, that's what bootcamp is for. And there might be some people who have a little bit more coding experience, but that's grand. They can help the others who maybe don't have any. And we just encourage the apprentice group to work together, to get to know each other and to support each other as they're learning all of the different elements. And when I say different elements, it is really a bit of everything. It's a bit like a tsunami of information coming at you, because we want to make sure that we can see your strengths and see what areas that you really enjoy. So we want to give you, let you have a go at doing a bit of everything, a bit of cloud, a bit of security, maybe a bit of intelligent automation, build a little chatbot, look at some legacy systems, look at some web development, look at some Java and a bit of Angular JS, do all of those things so that you can see and have a feel for what maybe you have a strength in that you didn't maybe know that you did. And then after the 4-week bootcamp, you tend to start your university, then you do 1 day a week. And you have opportunities to use additional study days so that you can plan your own self-study. And all the time you're working on client projects and using all of the technologies that you'll have encountered in bootcamp and some others. All of our apprentices as well have access to training online. So they all have a Pluralsight and Skillsoft licenses. And of course, depending on what project you end up on, all of the different projects have their own training structures. So there's lots and lots of learning that you can do the whole way through the programme. And it all culminates at the end of university with your degree grades and then a little endpoint assessment. And that happens in Manchester. We are currently liaising with a new delivery partner to reduce the standard degree programme time of 4 years for a degree apprenticeship down to about 2.5 years. So it means that you could be graduated before probably any of your friends would have graduated university that you went to school with or college with. In Scotland, it's slightly different because their entry levels are slightly different to ours. So in Scotland, the programme structure is a 4-year degree programme, which is standard across all of Scotland. We'll move to the next one. Thanks, Dan. So I hinted at what would happen in this little coding bootcamp a few minutes ago. Absolutely, we'll make sure that we introduce you not only to Accenture and all of our different processes and procedures, but to all of the different staff and projects and capabilities. And they'll come in and talk about all of the different clients that they serve, the technologies that they use, the kind of roles that they have. And we'll help you understand how to not only find a project and role that you want to work in, but how you can rotate if you feel like you want to change and you want to try something different. And as I say, the technical training, it's ideal for anybody who's never done any programming or software engineering before, and anyone who has, don't worry, there's lots of new things to learn. And like I said, you can help the others who maybe have a little less experience than you. We look at all the basics, human-computer interaction, good programming, how to write code, and we base the majority of that around object-oriented programming, but we do look at some legacy systems as well. JavaScript's probably the most popular programming language that we see demand for across all of our different clients. We make sure that we verse you well in JavaScript. It's also what a lot of the university work is based around as well. We do web design, data and databases, information security, the software development lifecycle, look at a bit of agile, bit of wagile, bit of waterfall, testing and automated testing, and of course UX, UI, and we do look at a bit of cloud and a bit of robotics. As I say, we might get you using a bit of C and Python and build a little chatbot. Throughout bootcamp and throughout your time with Accenture, there's no need to worry about maybe feeling overwhelmed or falling behind. There's lots and lots of support. You know, we have a very robust recruitment process, and we feel that if you're offered the opportunity to join us as an apprentice at Accenture, that we utterly believe that you can do whatever it is we need to do and whatever you want to do within Accenture. So there's lots of pastoral support, and there's myself and another lady called Keke. In Manchester, there's Kevin, and in Scotland, we have Mark as well. And we're all here to support all of the apprentices with whatever they need. You also get a buddy who's an apprentice who's a few years ahead of you. The universities have lots of support. that helps students in all sorts of ways, again, from pastoral to academic support. There are many, many different allies and networks within Accenture. There's an employee helpline. And then, of course, sometimes the biggest place for support is with the other people who've started on the journey with you, those little start groups. You know, and back in the day when we were all working in offices and I was able to walk through the kitchens and the canteens and visit all of the different offices that we have, I'd very often see apprentices from the same start group all sitting having lunch together. The Christmas parties and other tag events, we'd see them still together. So absolutely the start group, the people that you start with, will help you on that journey as well. In your roles and your projects, you've got your line manager, you'll have a buddy in your team, the HR team are there to help you as well. There's lots of internal networks and clubs and societies. And there's a little section we call Life At, and there's lots of people in Life At who are there to help you no matter what you encounter. You know, some of our apprentices have babies, and there's you know, a parenting and family support as well. So no matter what it is you encounter, there'll be lots of support within the business as well. And then, of course, technically, it is a programming course. That's not always easy. But again, because we've taken you through a bit of a coding journey in bootcamp, we're well aware, as you will be, of what your strengths and your weaknesses are. We can reach out to you at different stages of your university studies and say, do you need a bit of help? We know you weren't particularly fond of databases when you were doing them. We know you're doing that at the minute. Do you need some help? And there's no end of volunteers who are prepared to reach out and help you. We have technical mentors. There's people who work for Accenture now who used to teach and lecture, and they're very happy to help. And as I say, also some grad apprentices. As well as the coding bootcamp, there's lots of opportunities at lunch times to do little lunch and learns around specific subjects. And we even have our own little code school that runs one lunchtime a week that you can join and learn lots of different elements about the software and programs that we use. There's your project and your team. There's internal training that's planned for everybody. And of course, there's your peers. There's people you'll be working with. There's people you'll be studying with. There's other apprentices, other new grads that have all started at the same time as you, and they're all there to provide you with help and support.
Lovely, thank you very much, Karen. Before we kind of hear from Craig and Jasmine about what it's like to work as an apprentice at Accenture, just thought I'll talk you through the recruiting process and what to expect when you apply for us. So there's a three-stage process for us when you apply. So the initial thing is you apply online. So we don't actually expect you to kind of send in a CV and a covering letter like most other big companies does. Like them, we also have an online application to start off with. So essentially you create a little profile of yourself when you apply online. We ask you similar information than you would give if you had a CV, for example, kind of personal information about your kind of home address and your kind of phone number and email address, that sort of stuff, where you've gone to school or college, what your grades were, and if you've done any extracurricular activity or voluntary work, what is your interests and your hobbies. We do ask you what you can think your strengths are. So it's quite interactive. And I would encourage you to kind of supply as much information as possible about yourself, because we want to sort of see who you are when you do your first online application and you create your kind of online profile of yourself. So if you pass that first stage of your kind of Head Start online application, then you move on to what we call our discovery portal. And essentially it's an interactive hub where you do a few challenges and tests. So it's all very interactive again. So there'll be different kind of tiles and buttons with videos and lots of information telling you about what we do at Accenture. And what we essentially do is we talk you through a project example at Accenture, again, with the kind of videos and information that you can kind of listen to and watch and read. And as we go along, talking you through it, we, in a very interactive way, ask you just to kind of answer some questions. We might ask you to do a couple of basic calculations or to summarize some information. Essentially, what this interactive kind of hub is all about is to test your analytical thinking, because analytical thinking, problem solving, those are the kinds of things that we expect our technology apprentices to be able to kind of do. So it's quite a fun kind of portal where you can do challenges and tests, which is much more interactive than it normally would be for these kinds of online assessments. So after you've done your online application and then your online tests on the Discovery portal, the final stage would be an assessment center. They used to be face-to-face, kind of in a kind of office environment or a kind of meeting space, but at the moment they're all done kind of virtually. So, but we have that all kind of in place. It's very much a similar experience and similar tasks you would complete. The only difference is that we do it kind of with kind of video calls and things, live video calls through things like Teams or Zoom at the assessment center. But the content of the assessment center is very similar to what it normally would have been. So there's an interview asking you questions about your interest in technology, because, you know, it is a technology apprenticeship, and questions around some of the skills that we are looking for. So, you know, as I said already, kind of analytical thinking, problem solving skills, communication skills, team working. We look for some resilience. We look for people who are able to kind of balance work and study at the same time. So the questions will kind of be around those things at the interview. And then there's also going to be a couple of individual exercises where we ask you just to kind of read through some instructions and complete a task, essentially. And the potential could also be a paired exercise, which you will complete with one other person, rather than having a big, massive kind of group exercise that you normally would have done. Had the assessment centers been in an office, this will be more like just one or two or three people maximum, kind of having a kind of completing an exercise together. So interview, a couple of individual exercises, and potentially also a paired exercise at the assessment center. And if you actually pass that, then we offer you a place on our apprenticeship for the location you've actually applied for. Just some key dates for you finally there. So our application is actually opened today. So Jordan, I will send the links to that with yourself and others at Pathway CTM for you to distribute to the audience here this evening. But also everyone here, feel free to go onto our website, obviously. In the careers section, there will be the links there to apply for all our locations, as I said, Newcastle, Manchester, Edinburgh, London and Warwick. And applications will be open until the 26th of February, so they'll be open for a few months. I would say, though, if you can, apply sooner rather than later. Just if for some reason we find lots of good people before the 26th of February, we might close it a week or so beforehand. We'll try not to, but you know, if we do find loads of good people at the start, then we probably wouldn't need to keep it open for that long. So do get in there sooner rather than later would be my suggestion. But at the same time, don't rush your application. Make sure that you complete it thoroughly and to your best ability. You've got plenty of time. It only closes on the 26th of February. And then we will be having assessment centers kind of throughout January, February, March, April time. And then we are aiming at the target start date of right at the end of August. So just some key dates there for you as well. Right, so I guess we're gonna now do a little bit of a panel discussion with Craig and Jasmine, which will be led by Karen. Karen's just gonna ask some sort of questions, and you'll get a chance to learn from Jasmine and from Craig about their experience at Accenture and the kind of things they've been involved in. So I think it's best at this point just to kind of stop sharing my screen, so we can just have a discussion this way. So I'll pass over to you, Karen.
Thank you, Dan. So I've got a few questions that I'm going to ask the apprentices that have been working with us for a wee while now, just so that we can get to know them a little bit better. So Craig and Jasmine, I'm going to ask you, Craig, let's ask you first. Why did you decide to do an apprenticeship?
So basically, I didn't really feel like wanting to go to uni. That was like, for me, I was like, uni, not quite my style, don't want to do it. So then I thought, but I do want a degree. So what's the way to do that? And then seen degree apprenticeship as like the way forward. So I thought, oh yeah, and I seen the advert and I've applied. And yeah, but I just wasn't into studying for all that. I want to work and get into work, so that's why sort of I got into it. Yeah.
Jasmine, what about you?
Yeah, really similar to Craig actually, because I didn't, at my sixth form, we didn't really reach out much and talk much about apprenticeships. It was more about university, and that wasn't, I wanted to get straight into work. I didn't want to carry on that much in full education. So by researching more myself and not knowing exactly what route of technology I wanted to work in, doing this apprenticeship program has really allowed me to branch out and try new things. So it's been useful to be able to see if I've got new interests or to add more to my current knowledge on technology.
So Jasmine, staying with you for a wee minute, why did you choose Accenture?
Mainly chose Accenture because of the culture behind Accenture, and to gain the experience and the opportunity of gaining a degree that's relevant to what I want to work into. So Accenture offers so many different projects and roles, and it really allows me to grow and work my way up and to experience a lot that I wouldn't be able to in either a smaller business. And it really caught my eye when I was looking at apprenticeships.
And Craig, what about you? Why Accenture?
Pretty similar, but one of the key things I thought was Accenture works with clients in everything, so both in loads of industries, banking, products, a huge amount. So I thought I could work with multiple technologies and multiple businesses, and you wouldn't have that sort of flexibility or scope in like just a small sort of business. You'd be stuck, whereas you'd just have that whole world of clients to work with.
And Craig, did you have a lot of technical experience before you started your apprenticeship?
So I had a wee bit at school. I did computer science at school, so I did learn like sort of, let's say, the fundamentals of sort of Java and Python, but nothing too in depth, so nothing crazy.
Jasmine, what about you? Were you very technical before you joined us?
I didn't have like a large or broad experience in technology. I did study IT in my GCSEs and A level, so I had a bit of background knowledge on certain areas, like I did a bit of web design, so I had a little bit of that, but I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to be able to gain more, because I knew obviously a lot of programming knowledge I didn't do computer science, so I didn't have a lot, but it was good to be able to come into Accenture knowing that it was okay that I didn't have a lot, that I could work on it and it was fine.
You always have BootCamp to help you get started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Craig, can you give me an example of some of the project work that you've been doing when you haven't been studying?
So one sort of the main sort of project that I've been doing is I've been working at a large UK bank on their payments department, and I work in the sort of the payment systems. So I what I do day to day impacts loads of people in UK, well, the world. The department, the payments it processes has a value of about 3 billion each day. So what I do in that, by writing scripts and updating the systems, as well as doing some business analysis around that, which I find pretty exciting, because what I do affects everyone. Whenever someone sends a payment through to this bank or outwards, it's me that does that. And people pay quite a lot, so
it's always worth it. Jasmine, what about you? What kind of stuff have you been doing? I know you haven't been with us very long, so what's your project like at the minute?
No, yeah, I've only started in the end of August, so I'm very new. So I'm only on my first project role at the moment, which is marketing based. So it's allowed me to get comfortably working in Accenture and learn about the different areas, was also having a new role to look into. So I've been working on the capability development, and it's been like I have already had an interest in marketing, so it's allowed me to explore it further and apply it to a real, obviously, life job role and scenario.
So, Jasmine, how are you finding learning all of the new things you have to learn for work and studying at the same time. How's that going?
Yeah, so my university obviously side hasn't fully started yet. It's coming up in January, but it has allowed me to settle into my first job, as I've just come straight from sixth form. So it's allowed me to get settled into Accenture and the working environment a lot more. But because I know how I work, balancing, obviously I still use Pluralsight, the training platform as well. So to balance that, I know how I need to prioritize my time. I have like my own weekly planner and to-do list, so I know when I need to get things done and when things are due. So I definitely feel like a lot more comfortable when I go to uni, knowing how to balance studying and working at the same time. Especially obviously as most people at school and at sixth form or college or wherever, they've had to balance it then. So yeah, I haven't found it as a large of a challenge as I thought I might. But it's just knowing how you work, how you study, and to know that if you are struggling, who you can contact to then reach out to, whether it be at Accenture or at your university, to say, I'm having an issue. So yeah, it's been really good so far.
Craig, as well as your time at university, is there other training that you've done whilst you've been with Accenture?
You've opened the cat. There's a lot of training available and that I've taken, such as there's cloud certificates that look great and are pretty interesting to do. And I've just fired out and done them because we have this sort of online resource called Pluralsight, which basically is online courses in anything. And you can do anything. So I was just firing out doing that. But not even just that. In BootCamp, you obviously get a good fundamental basis for sort of Java, which helps me a lot in my role. And also I was just interested one day. I want to know a bit of data analytics, just I'm a bit interested in that. Went on Pluralsight, 5-hour course. I just done that on the side, and there it just makes I know a bit more, and it's all good.
And I'm guessing as well, when you start to work on your projects, that there's training that the team so on can help you with.
Yeah, so for me, when I joined the project, obviously I don't know anything about payment systems or financial stuff. So I had a knowledge transfer sort of course set up by my manager, a whole sort of 2-month course that they basically just fired me into, and I just learned everything about sort of how the system works, how to sort of troubleshoot it and fix it, how to develop on it, and as well as sort of the business analyst side that I do and what requirements I need to get, and how, but on top of that, as well as the theory for the financial systems and the banks and how it all ties together. So that was pretty interesting, and because I was worried when I started that I'd be fired into something and be like, oh, I don't have a clue. But no, they made that like a cakewalk almost.
So a bit the same as Jasmine. And Jasmine, if you were to give somebody who was thinking about applying for an apprenticeship some advice, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would definitely say to do your research and see if you can envision yourself working there. That has always helped, obviously, if you're really passionate about a certain area in technology. And I find it really useful to do all your research into the company separately from, obviously, the site that they're telling you about the degree. Knowing if what's more applicable to you, whether you would prefer to do an apprenticeship, learning, working, and because with the apprenticeship it's very hands-on, you're learning as you're going and you can apply what you're doing at university to your workplace and vice versa. So it's being able to get the both sides of the balance right. So it's been a good transition between studying and working, especially from sixth form. You transition into it. So the advice would be to just go for it. I mean, you might as well just apply, and you can get a real experience out of it. And even just the recruitment process, I didn't have a lot of background in interviews or anything like that, so that was a real experience as well. So it's, especially for me, like the best way I learn is through practical work. So doing a degree has allowed me to bring it to the workplace, like I said, and it's really helped me. So the advice would obviously just do your research and then you can see what works best for you, and you can apply to your different roles. And if the role comes up that you think, great, this is really for me, you can see where you can go from there. You can do more training. Obviously with Pluralsight, there's so many different things you can do on there. And if you think, right, I enjoyed it, maybe not what I want to look into, you can roll off and find another role. It's really versatile, and you just might as well go for it if that's what you're looking into.
And Craig, what about you? Is there any advice you would give anybody who's
yeah, so just to echo what Jasmine said there, just go for it. If you're considering an apprenticeship, just go for it. What you got to lose? Because one thing with Accenture, if you do get in, you'll find your niche that you'll like. So I know multiple people that came in my start group that didn't have too much of a sort of programming experience. Now they're testers, and they like doing that and they love it and they tell me about it. Like, oh, I do X, Y, Z, and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. So because you're able to explore what you like, and then once you find what you like, what your niche is, you'll excel.
Cool. Well, that's all the questions I have for you guys. I'm not sure if any other questions have been coming in.
Sorry, I was on mute there. We've had one come in, and please do everybody else send in any other questions if you do have. So I've had one coming in saying, I suppose this one's for Craig and Jasmine as well. Is it hard to make friends virtually working?
Who do you want to answer first?
Craig, I'll pass it to you.
So for me, not really, no. So one thing in Accenture, like the sort of a culture of everyone's friendly. I could message the CEO, well, maybe not the CEO, but I can message someone high up and they'll happily help me. And for when it comes to sort of friends in the apprenticeship, you start off in a start group. And I constantly, with my start group, I constantly go on calls with them all the time, just as friends. And even sort of the new people that have came through. So I'm a year 2 apprentice and there's new year 1s. And so we set up some sort of ice-breaking calls, and yeah, we met, and now we're good as, yeah, we're good mates, I would say. Yeah, maybe pass on to Jasmine.
Yeah, I think with me starting, I started working from home straight from like the get-go, with obviously the situation that's been going on. So for me, it was a little bit difficult to get to know people, just because I wasn't sure of this is my first role, my first job. It's finding the connections. But there's been obviously the buddy scheme, so I regularly meet with my buddy, and it gives a lot of advice, and it's just a nice chat to meet someone that maybe doesn't have to be work related. And then with all of we have our own events, so you can meet the leaders. Again, with my start group, got our own group chat and everything like that. So there is a lot of different things you can do to get involved. They had like a bake-off week, and you could submit all your bakes and things like that. So it's a very like big community where you can get to know people, and like Craig said, you can ping anyone and they'd be glad to sort of give their advice if they're fairly new or they've been there a while. And you get your own mentors as well. So it is really easy to meet new people within, which I didn't think would be as easy as it is from starting.
Yeah, no, they're both great answers. I mean, I can speak as well from personal experience that it does. I started a new job during working from home, and you do get to sort of get to meet people, and you just have to do that via Teams or Zooms or whatever platform it is that you use. But it's still very easy to sort of make good connections with your colleagues and stuff. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. We've got another question here, which perhaps maybe Dan or Karen, you might be better to answer. Someone's asked if they need to be doing any particular subject at school to apply for this role at all. Is there anything in particular that they need, any requirements, Dan?
No, not necessarily at all. No, so you don't have to have a technology-related sort of subjects at school at all. What we are looking for, though, is for people who are really interested in working in a tech environment and have a real passion for it, because you will be working in technology, and that's actually what we're looking for. And we can teach you all the kind of tech that you will be kind of using in your role at Accenture. So if you don't have computer science or anything like that at school or college, don't worry about it. Apply anyway, but do demonstrate your kind of interest and your passion for technology, and your kind of willingness to learn and develop yourself. Those are the main things that we are looking for.
Maths and English at GCSE, you know, that's something that the universities definitely look for. But Dan's right, you know, as long as you have that interest in technology and you really want to learn, you know, we've had people who've come from all sorts of backgrounds at all different ages. And I would say, you know, like honestly, everything. They've been working in fast food restaurants, they've been selling mobile phones, they've come straight from school. So I think as long as you're willing to learn, we've seen great success with everybody who's really wanted to be there.
That's great. Hello. I think that's definitely answered that question. We've got another question here that's come in that says, is the apprenticeship scheme available in all the locations, or are some easier to get into? So I think maybe what they're asking is there more competition in certain areas than others perhaps, and is it worth applying to all of them or some?
So how it works with the applications, you can only apply for one job at a time at Accenture. So you need to do your research about which area you want to kind of work in. Maybe if you want to apply for the Edinburgh one, you might be based in Scotland, but if you want to go further afield, you can apply as well. I would say some areas like Newcastle and London have more opportunities than in Edinburgh and in Manchester. But having said that, because it's been quite established in Newcastle at Accenture, we tend to get loads and loads of applications to those locations. So I would say the ratio is quite evened out, even though there might be more opportunities in places like London and Newcastle because of the history of our apprenticeships there. You'll get loads of applications, whereas you'll get much fewer applications for, say, Edinburgh and Manchester, and you've got as good a chance to get in. So I wouldn't say don't let the actual location kind of worry you too much about where you apply to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so, definitely. I think that leads quite nicely on. We've had another question. You said that I suppose everyone's working virtually at the moment anyway, so location perhaps isn't as important as maybe it was in previous years because you can do things virtually. But someone has asked if there is a view to go back into the offices next year, or what are your plans sort of with that at all, if you do have any, you know.
Karen, I don't know if you want to answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually because of the nature of work that we do, and because we do a lot of work that has to be done in a very secure environment, we actually have people who are working on site and in our offices all the way through. So I have apprentices who are doing work on site at the minute. And I think it just depends, you know, on the different locations. Some of the universities have decided to deliver virtually. Some are delivering, split the classes 50-50 in their delivering. So we do need to be in some of those locations. So it just depends. But yes, absolutely. I would say that going forwards, there would be a move for the majority of staff on, especially in those secure projects, which a lot of the work is, to be based in an office or on a client site. And it's the best, safest and securest way for them to work.
I think as well, we have a few people here who are in perhaps year 11 or 12, and someone's asked if you open applications every year. I mean, I presume you do. And there is sort of, you're looking to keep those going for the next following year. So anyone who's here who's interested in applying, but not perhaps this year, it's great that you're here and you're still finding out about these things. So do make sure you apply in the following years. I'm speaking on behalf of you there, but I presume that they will be open.
They will be. We open up every kind of December, January time every year. And they're very successful at Accenture, our apprenticeship. So we very much look forward to kind of continuing for the next few years as well, if all goes according to plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. We've also had someone ask that if you're into technology hardware, is this a good choice for you, this scheme?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, maybe Craig and Jasmine, you're doing the scheme, so you maybe know perhaps like if you're into hardware, is there opportunities for that kind of thing?
So from my experience, yeah, in what my client does, let's say, how does that work? Yeah, no, there is in terms of more networking type of hardware, and so I know people at Accenture, apprentices who go out to like the data center and sort of almost play about with the networking technology for the bank there. And obviously they know a lot. I don't do it day to day, but they know it in depth and they seem to enjoy it. Yeah.
It's I have to say, it's in the main, the vast majority of the work that we do, and I'd say like 99% of it, is software engineering. So, you know, we have had some people who've joined us in the past whose real passion is hardware, and they've maybe decided after a couple of years to leave us and to move somewhere else, because the majority of the opportunities are with software engineering, and the degree is a software engineering degree because we need programmers. So, and I think sometimes there's opportunities within technical architecture. Some of our apprentices who specialize in technical architecture maybe have more of a slant towards the hardware side there, but in the main, it's software engineers that we need. So it's programming that we really recruit to, and that's where the majority of the roles are.
That's great. I've had one come in, or two people have actually asked a very, very similar question. So Jasmine, I'll throw this one over to you. They've asked sort of, what are some of the day-to-day tasks for an apprentice? What are some of the things that you might be doing sort of every day in your work?
Okay, yeah. So for me, we have in our my project group, our team, we have a daily call, talk about what we're going to do through the day, any actions that we need to take from anything, any previous calls. We generally look through what meetings and calls we have throughout the day, working with clients or working with people within Accenture. So it does depend on that, or if we've got certain presentations coming up, like we have monthly calls, fortnightly calls, weekly calls, that sort of thing. So we prepare what we're going to plan for them. For me, being an apprentice, maybe once my university starts, I'll then start planning more work around my uni and planning my time more. So that will probably change within the next year slightly. But for me at the moment, it's with marketing, it's building the marketing material, reaching out for awareness sessions and things like that. So it does depend. So I'll try and join like lunch and learns as well. It'll vary from all types of different areas around Accenture. So that obviously depends. So my day to day, it does vary a lot, to be honest. And that's one of the reasons why I really like it. It's not the same always, and it's so different. Depending on what's coming up and what your role is as well. So it's not the same for everyone and for anything really. So it does vary quite a lot.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And I suppose, Craig, any of your sort of day-to-day tasks that you want to add?
Weirdly, it's very similar in the fact that I have a daily stand-up, so I go in with my team and we see what we need to do today, and that sort of happens. And then every day isn't the same though. That's the from this week and next week they'll be entirely different on what I'm doing with the systems and whatnot. But yeah, so I'll have a stand up and then I'll do development of some sort, and then probably have calls with other people within Accenture as well as the bank, and one like every week sometimes I join the coding school, which is pretty interesting to learn. So last time I did sort of SQL, which is database development, which is what I was interested in, and that's just 1 hour lunch. I sat, had some pasta, and just learned about SQL and whatnot. So every day is different, but there is sort of, let's say, structure to the day.
And that's I think that's the same with most jobs, and I think it's nice when you're able to sort of keep things interesting and mix things up, and you know that there are always different things to be working on. but again, it's good that you both seem to have a bit of a structure there. Someone's also asked, which perhaps Karen and Dan, you might know more on, if you at Accenture offer any work experience at all.
So we do offer work experience. At the moment, the work experience is only in our kind of London office. And the reason why we don't do it in all our offices is because we get a lot of requests for it, as you can imagine, and we don't always have the kind of resources, the capacity to accommodate everyone. And also for most of our offices, there's such strict security clearance requirements that we can't really kind of allow people who haven't kind of pass all kinds of security clearances and stuff before they can start with us. So for kind of security reasons, it's complicated, and for kind of the amount of requests we get for it. But there is a summer vacation scheme for 6 to 8 weeks within technology and within consulting, and that's kind of based in London. We do also, Karen, you can perhaps also talk about our kind of get into digital and move into work programs. You'll have more knowledge about that.
Yeah, I mean, we do, in normal circumstances, we do a lot of engagement with schools, mainly in Newcastle. We do a little bit in Scotland and then a little bit in Manchester. But at the minute, because everything's virtual, it's kind of possible to offer some of those experiences now, with it being virtual as well, and with schools having had their timetable disrupted so much in the last year. We're actually thinking about offering some virtual work experience opportunities at half term and at Easter and in the summer holidays, so that if anyone wants to participate, then they don't have to worry about getting released from different lessons at school. So when we have the dates for those, if it would help Jordan, I can circulate those to you.
Yeah, that would be great, and we can then pass those on to everyone who's attended today, because that sounds like a great opportunity. Anything from our side at Pathway CTM, we know that any time that you can get involved with any sort of virtual work experience, physical work experience, it's just a great thing for you to do. It shows that you're very proactive, and it's always going to look good when you're going for any sort of job application or degree application, whatever that is. So definitely worth looking out for those, and we will keep you posted on them. We've had quite a few questions come in on around strengths, and obviously the strengths part of your interview process. So we've had people asking for what advice you would give for that, and whether there's any sort of strengths you think are most important in terms of your recruitment process. So I suppose, Jasmine, you've quite recently gone through the process. So how was that part of the interview process for yourself, did you find?
Yeah, very new. It wasn't very long ago at all. For me, it would just to be mainly, obviously, anyone could say this, would to generally be yourself, because it was my first interview that I've done. So I was quite nervous, thinking, I've never done anything like this before. What sort of thing could come up? But it would be to highlight your interest in technology and the upcoming technologies, and how important it is nowadays, how much technology is being used across like all types of businesses, whether they are based in technology themselves. So to show your interest and your willingness to learn new things, and not to be afraid of asking for help, asking for questions, and not being afraid of being out of your comfort zone. For me, not having a computer sciencey background or programming, I was thinking, gosh, like, will I need a lot, or would it be difficult for me? But you've got all the support in place if you don't have that in your background. So to not worry about maybe your weaknesses, and to like not be worried about highlighting them, that you don't have this background, but to just highlight like the experience you have done, if you've done any previous work experience. Like people skills is always a highlight. If you've either worked in people skills or you're good working in teams, to highlight that as your strengths. It'll just be to show what previous things you've done in your past, whether you like to do anything in your free time, whether it be technology based. That would be always a good thing to show, to just show your willingness. And to obviously, when you've got your interview yourself, you've got your own task and an assessment that you've got to do, like a mini assessment, to just like, obviously you would do anyway for your interview, to just give it your all, but to really show new ideas and that you're individual, make sure you stand out, I suppose. That would be my advice.
Yeah, that's great advice. And then I suppose maybe Dan, from your side, if there are any strengths that you think are most important to try and highlight from someone who perhaps maybe on the recruiting side, perhaps, or on a bit more experienced in the company.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jasmine covered off quite a lot of them there already. The main thing, as I said earlier as well, is that interest in technology, that passion. If you can get that to come across, do your research when you come for an interview or an assessment about Accenture. Look online at some of the kind of projects that we are working on. We even have like a tech vision every year that we release with lots of information about the most up to date and kind of cutting edge technologies that we work with. Read that, know your stuff about Accenture and the tech that we work in, so that when you come to your interview, you've got lots of stuff to talk about, and you can actually say, well, you know what, I've come across this kind of thing on your website or this video on YouTube about Accenture doing this exciting tech with this client, and that will just make you stand out if you do that research, and it will also just demonstrate your passion for technology. So yeah, passion for tech, absolutely. Kind of a willingness to learn. We will ask questions around balancing work-life work with kind of personal life and studying. So that kind of willingness to learn is very important. Like with any job, team working is important. Even if you will be working within software engineering or technology, you will at times also be speaking to clients. So also think about how you would actually build trust with a client. You know, we won't ask you to give examples of when you've done that, because we don't expect people to have done that in the past, but we might ask you, how would you build trust with a client, for example? So those soft skills around communication, clients, but also the passion for technology, the willingness to learn, those are going to be the main things that we will be kind of focusing on.
Yeah, that's great. I'm cautious of the time. We do have 2 more questions, so I would like to just answer them so that we have got through everyone's questions today. So one here from Maya, she's asked, are the skills that you learn within your sort of roles transferable into other fields? So maybe Craig, I'll pass it over to you. Do you think some of the things you're learning, you'd be able to transfer into other jobs and positions?
Oh yeah, massively. Definitely a lot of what I've learned. So before I didn't really have much experience when it came to, let's say, sort of that communication skills with clients, etc. Well, now I'm always writing emails and talking to clients, so now I'm able to sort of tune my literature and whatnot to clients and business, and also even the technical skills I have, I can they go pretty far, especially if working in a large UK bank. There's a lot of different things in that sort of field with that. So yeah, you're on mute, by the way.
I was on mute. I think with most jobs, you'll always find that you will pick up skills that you'll be able to transfer into any job going forward, no matter what that is, and they're skills that perhaps you haven't come across before at school or college, but everyone is in the same boat, and they are things that you pick up very quickly. So it's a great question, though. Thanks for that, Maya. And then finally, the last question I have is sort of looking around how it says, how does your team approach day-to-day problems? So maybe this is a bit sort of on how maybe you use teamwork and problem-solving skills. It'd be great to hear. Perhaps I'll go back over to you, Jasmine, for this one, if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries. Generally, like, I do want to keep on saying, with me being new, I do obviously come across probably more like questions to ask to figure out how things are done, learning. So for our team, we obviously, with our daily call, will say like, this is what we've got planned today, any questions? And I think as well it's helped with teams to be able to just like ping someone, or to just be like, can I grab you for a call? I've got a question on this. Or you can do it, it might not necessarily have to be someone within your team. It could be someone within, like, to do with the apprenticeship program, or something that you need to ask about. So it's really easy to just sort of quickly grab someone. But to approach it, it's best to generally, if you're really unsure, to be able to speak to someone, because everyone in here is so lovely and really approachable. So it's so easy to just generally say, like, I've got this issue. Have you either come across this before? Do you know how to solve it? And if not, you can work on it together. You can raise it to like your manager, or like someone a bit higher than you, someone with more experience that you know of, and to work together. It just cuts the time short, instead of worrying, sitting there thinking, I have no idea what's going on. What can I do? So
I think that's absolutely brilliant advice there, for any question you might be going into. So thanks for that, Jasmine. And that is all of the questions we've had. So I'd just like to say from my side, thank you to everyone who has participated today. Thank you to all of our speakers, Craig and Jasmine, Dan and Karen. You have been fantastic. It's been amazing to hear from you all. And for all of you who've attended, we'll send around any links if you are keen to sign up to all of the roles that are open, and also we will be able to support you with that if you want any application support. So do keep an eye out in your emails for those. We will be sending those across. And if anyone has any further questions for myself or anyone who's spoken today, please do send us an email at student@pathwayctm.com, and we can forward that on to these guys here, and I'm sure everyone will be happy to help if you've got any further questions at all. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.